This is the title: Resolution Condemning President Trump's Racist Comments Directed at Members of Congress. Whereas the founders conceived America as a haven of refuge for people fleeing from religious and political persecution, and Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison all emphasized that the nation gained as it attracted new people in search of freedom and livelihood for their families. Whereas the Declaration of Independence defined America as a covenant based on equality, the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and government by the consent of the people. Whereas Benjamin Franklin said at the Constitutional Convention, when foreigners, after looking about for some other country in which they can obtain more happiness, give a preference to ours, it is a proof of attachment which ought to excite our confidence and affection. Whereas President Franklin D. Roosevelt said, remember always that all of us, and you and I especially, are descended from immigrants and revolutionists. Whereas immigration of people from all over the earth has defined every stage of American history and propelled our social, economic, political, scientific, cultural, artistic, and technological progress as a people, and all Americans, except for the descendants of Native people and enslaved African Americans, are immigrants or descendants of immigrants. Whereas the commitment to immigration and asylum has been not a partisan cause, but a powerful national value that has infused the work of many presidents. Whereas American patriotism is defined not by race or ethnicity, but by devotion to the constitutional ideals of equality, liberty, inclusion, and democracy, and by service to our communities and struggle for the common good. Whereas President John F. Kennedy, whose family came to the U.S. from Ireland, stated in his 1958 book, A Nation of Immigrants, that the contribution of immigrants can be seen in every aspect of our national life. We see it in religion, in politics, in business, in the arts and education, even in athletics and entertainment. There's no part of our nation that has not been touched by our immigrant background. Everywhere immigrants have enriched and strengthened the fabric. Everywhere immigrants have enriched and strengthened the fabric of American life. Whereas President Ronald Reagan, in his last speech as president, conveyed an observation about a country which I love. Whereas President Reagan observed, the torch of Lady Liberty symbolizes our freedom and represents our heritage, the compact with our parents, our grandparents, and our ancestors. And it is the Statue of Liberty and its values that give us our great and special place in the world. Whereas other countries may seek to compete with us, but in one vital area, as a beacon of freedom and opportunity that draws the people of the world, no country on earth comes close. Where it is the great life force of each generation of new Americans that guarantees that America's triumph shall continue unsurpassed through the 21st century and beyond, and is part of the magical, intoxicating power of America. Whereas this is one of the most important sources of America's greatness. We lead the world because, unique among nations, we draw our people, our strength from every country and every corner of the world, and by doing so, we continuously renew and enrich our nation. Whereas thanks to each wave of new arrivals to this land of opportunity, we're a nation forever young, forever bursting with energy and new ideas, and always on the cutting edge, always leading the world to the next frontier. Whereas this openness is vital to our future as a nation. And if we ever closed the door to new Americans, our leadership in the world would soon be lost. And whereas President Donald Trump's racist comments have legitimized fear and hatred of new Americans and people of color, now therefore be it resolved that the House of Representatives believes that immigrants and their descendants have made America stronger, and that those who take the oath of citizenship are every bit as American as those whose families have lived in the U.S. for many generations. The House of Representatives is committed to keeping America open to those lawfully seeking refuge and asylum from violence and oppression, and those who are willing to work hard to live the American dream, no matter their race, ethnicity, faith, or country of origin. And the House of Representatives strongly condemns President Donald Trump's racist comments that have legitimized and increased fear and hatred of new Americans and people of color by saying that our fellow Americans who are immigrants and those who may look to the president like immigrants should go back to other countries, by referring to immigrants and asylum seekers as invaders, and by saying that members of Congress who are immigrants or those of our colleagues who are wrongly assumed to be immigrants do not belong in Congress or in the United States of America. That resolution this evening condemning the president's racist tweets was passed in the House of Representatives. The vote was 240 to 187. The resolution received the votes of just 4 Republican members of Congress, as well as recently exiled Republican turned independent Justin Amash. The vote was gavelled in just before 7 o'clock this evening, following some impassioned speeches from Democrats on the House floor.
Telling 4 members of this body to go home because of where you believe they are from is racist. There is racism coming out of the White House.
I know racism when I see it. I know racism when I feel it. And at the highest level of government, there's no room for racism.
They are just as American as any one of us, and it's shameful that the leader of our country would seek to disparage them for political gain.
It's not the first time I've heard "go back to your own country," but it is the first time I have heard it coming from the White House.
After the president's tweets, the neo-Nazi Daily Stormer website gloated that this is the kind of white nationalism we voted for. Now we have to decide, is this the kind of politics that we want in our country?
The lead author of tonight's resolution condemning the president for his racist remarks is a Democrat who was not born in this country, although he is not one of the Democrats who was targeted by the White House for it. He's the man who you saw there speaking at the end there, New Jersey Congressman Tom Malinowski. He joins us next.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.